Imagine this, you're sitting there staring at your phone, your fingers hovering over the screen, your heart beating a little too fast. You've told yourself you're doing great, that you're sticking to the no contact rule, and that you're finally regaining your power. But then a wave of emotion hits. Nostalgia, sadness, maybe even a flicker of hope, and suddenly that one question rises in your mind. Should I reach out? Now, here's the truth. The no contact rule isn't some punishment. It's not a way to manipulate someone into missing you. It's not a game. It's a boundary, a necessary one. It's space to reclaim yourself after a relationship that left you confused, hurt, or heartbroken. But yes, sometimes, under very specific circumstances, it is okay to break that rule. But here's the key. You only break it when you're reaching out for closure, not to and that distinction changes everything. You see, when you reach out hoping to restart what you had, you're not reaching out from a place of strength. You're reaching out from a place of need. You're giving them your vulnerability without knowing what they're going to do with it. That's risky. That's emotional Russian roulette. And if they respond with coldness, indifference, or worse, radio silence, it doesn't just sting, it sets your healing back days, weeks, maybe even months. But if you're reaching out because you genuinely want closure, not drama, not validation, not a second round, then it can be powerful. And you'll know if that's your intention by how you feel when you imagine them not replying. If you reach out and they don't respond, and you're okay with that, if you're not crushed, if it doesn't derail your week, then you're probably reaching out from a grounded place. That's when you know it's less about them and more about something you need to say, something that brings peace for you. But let's be honest, not every story gets a neat, tidy ending. Not every relationship comes with the kind of closure we want. Sometimes people ghost. Sometimes they avoid hard conversations. Sometimes they leave you with nothing but 1,000 questions in your head and no way to answer them. In those moments, you think closure is something they owe you. But I'm here to tell you, closure is something you give yourself. And sometimes giving yourself closure means reaching out, not for answers, but for release. But before you type that message, ask yourself this: what do I truly want from this conversation? Not what you tell your friends, not what sounds noble, but the honest truth in your heart. Are you hoping they'll say, I miss you? Are you waiting for them to say, I made a mistake? Because if that's what you're reaching out for, you're not asking for closure. You're asking for hope. You're asking to be let back into something that already hurt you once. Hope is beautiful, but it can also be dangerous when it's tied to someone else's decision. You have to be brutally honest with yourself. Because if your message is a secret test, if you're measuring your worth by their response, you're putting your heart in the hands of someone who's already shown they don't always protect it. Now, if you still feel something unresolved, maybe you never got to express how you felt, maybe there were things left unsaid that are weighing you down, then yes, writing a message might be part of your healing. But here's what that message should sound like. It should be short, clear, emotionally mature. Something like, hey, I've been reflecting on everything, and I just wanted to say thank you for the time we shared. I'm moving forward with peace, and I wish the best for you. That's it. No passive-aggressive digs. No questions like, do you ever think about me? No open-ended fishing. Just a message that closes the chapter with dignity. And the moment you hit send, don't wait. Don't stare at your phone. Don't keep checking to see if they've read it. That's not closure. That's obsession in disguise. Closure means walking away with peace, regardless of what happens next. Here's something else to remember. You don't need their permission to move on. You don't need them to say sorry. You don't need them to explain why they did what they did. Would it be nice? Sure. But is it essential? Absolutely not. Your healing is not dependent on their maturity. It's dependent on your ability to give yourself what they couldn't. Breaking no contact is not about getting answers. It's not about rekindling connection. It's about expressing a final piece of truth for yourself. So ask yourself, does this message empower me, or does it hook me back into something I worked hard to escape. Because if the truth is that you're still emotionally tied to the outcome, if you're still secretly hoping they'll change their mind, then don't do it. Not yet. Give yourself more time. Let your heart catch up with your logic. Let the silence serve you instead of haunting you. There's a beautiful kind of strength in restraint, in waiting until your words are rooted in clarity instead of craving. And when you're finally there, when you truly feel like you're not reaching back but reaching forward for closure, that's when it's okay. So the next time you're tempted to break the no contact rule, take a breath. Ask yourself, am I doing this for peace or for permission to hold on? If it's not peace, you're not ready. But if it is, go ahead and let go. One of the biggest misconceptions people have about the no contact rule is that it's this magical formula. Like if you just vanish for 30 days, your phone will suddenly light up with a message that says, I miss you, let's fix this. And I get it. It gives you something to hold on to when everything feels like it's slipping away. But here's the truth. No contact isn't a spell you cast to win someone back. It's a space you create to change that. That's why one of the very few times it actually is okay to break the no contact rule is when you've both genuinely grown. And I don't just mean you started journaling or they posted a gym selfie. I mean deep, uncomfortable, real growth, the kind that forces you to take responsibility for the role you played, for the things you ignored, for the ways you abandoned yourself while trying to hold on to someone else. Growth doesn't happen just because time has passed. Growth happens when you confront your patterns, when you stop blaming the other person for everything that went wrong, when you sit in the silence long enough to realize what you actually want, not just from them, but from love itself. Because here's the thing, it's not about whether you miss them. It's about whether the version of you who's reaching out now is capable of building something better, and whether the version of them you'd be reaching out to can actually meet you at that level. I see people jump the gun all the time. They make it a few weeks into no contact, start feeling lonely, and mistake that loneliness for a sign. Maybe I should reach out. Maybe they're thinking about me too. And they don't ask the real questions. Not do I miss them? Because of course you do. Not was there love? Because there probably was. But did we grow? Did we actually become different people? Or are we just going to reenact the same movie with the same ending? If you were anxious and needy, are you still? If they were avoidant or inconsistent, have they done the work to even understand why? If communication broke down, do either of you know how to communicate any better now? Because the worst thing you can do is break no contact, thinking you're stepping into something new, when in reality, you're just hitting play on the same song you've already cried to a dozen times. That's how you end up stuck in an emotional loop. Hope, disappointment. Hope again, crash again. But when real growth has happened, it feels different. You're not reaching out because you're desperate. You're not trying to fix the past. You're curious about the future. You're not clinging. You're calm. There's no fantasy playing in your head about what you want them to say. You know who you are now. You know what your standards are, and if they haven't met you on that same path of growth, you're willing to walk away even after reaching out. That's power. That's maturity. That's love with boundaries. I remember someone once told me, but we had so much chemistry. And I said, that's not enough. Chemistry without growth is just a fire that burns the same way every time. If you want to build something healthy, something lasting, you need more than spark. You need evolution. You need self-awareness. You need to ask yourself, is there evidence that this person has evolved beyond what hurt us the first time? And don't answer that based on what you hope. Answer it based on what you know. Because if they come back with the same patterns, with the same excuses, with the same inability to show up, then breaking no contact just drags you back into a relationship that already showed you who it was. But if you see signs of growth, real tangible changes in the way they handle communication, vulnerability, conflict, responsibility, then maybe there's something worth exploring. And still, that doesn't mean diving straight back in. It means starting from scratch. It means building trust again, taking things slow, checking in with yourself constantly. Am I slipping back into old roles? Am I betraying myself just to keep this connection alive? Because growth isn't just something that happens before reconnecting. It's something you carry into every interaction afterwards. So break no contact only if you're willing to treat it not as a shortcut to getting them back, but as a checkpoint to see if both of you are even capable of showing up in a new way. Because if you haven't both grown, you're not breaking a rule, you're breaking yourself all over again. Let them miss you, let them wonder, but more importantly, let yourself change. Because when you come from that place of grounded growth, you don't need to chase anything. You're not hoping for someone to complete you. You're seeing if someone can match you. And if they can't, you walk. Not bitter, not broken, just better. Because when growth is real, you don't need to force anything. You simply see what aligns and you move accordingly. It's easy to think that no contact is just about the other person. We often think, if I stay away long enough, they'll miss me, they'll reach out, or they'll realize how important I am. But what if I told you that no contact isn't really about getting them back at all? What if it's about you? And what if, at the end of it, you're not just hoping for reconciliation, but you're ready to take full responsibility for your own actions? We all make mistakes in relationships, big ones, small ones, the kind that make you question how you ever let things get so messy. Maybe you said something you didn't mean, acted in a way that wasn't aligned with who you want to be, or let your insecurities get in the way of trust. These things happen, but here's where it gets tricky. If you're holding on to the hope of getting them back, then reaching out can become a self-serving attempt to heal your wounds, not theirs. That's where the danger lies. You see, if you want to break no contact, the only reason it should be to reach out for accountability, not to fix things for you, not to manipulate them back into your life, and certainly not to relieve your guilt. It's about acknowledging the harm, acknowledging what you did, and owning it. I can tell you from personal experience, growing from our mistakes takes courage, but it's also the only way to move forward with dignity. So before you consider breaking the silence, ask yourself this simple question. Am I reaching out because I want to make things right with them, or am I trying to relieve my own pain? If your intention is the latter, you're not ready yet. You're still in a place where you're seeking validation and not seeking to take true responsibility. Taking responsibility means facing the truth head on. It means saying, I know I messed up and I understand how it impacted you. And it also means not expecting a response. You don't do this to get closure or to get them back into your life or to have them tell you that you were right all along. You do it because you owe it to yourself to own up to your actions. Even if it never leads to reconciliation, it gives you peace. It frees you from the cycle of guilt and regret that you might be holding on to. Here's the key. Accountability is powerful. It's one of the most empowering things you can do for yourself and for the other person. When you reach out to own your part, it doesn't matter whether or not they forgive you, whether they accept your apology, or whether they even respond. The act of owning up to your actions allows you to walk away from the situation with a sense of integrity. It allows you to live with the knowledge that you didn't leave things unresolved. And that's what makes you stronger in the long run, being able to stand in your own truth, even if it's uncomfortable. However, you have to be honest with yourself about the timing of when you reach out. This is important. Don't break no contact if you're still too emotionally charged. If you're texting them in the middle of a breakdown, just trying to get a reaction, that's not accountability. That's an emotional impulse that you'll regret. Your emotions will cloud your judgment and you'll risk making things worse. The best time to reach out is when you've had enough space to reflect, when you've truly thought about the impact of your actions, and when you've come to a place where you can speak from a place of genuine humility, not desperation. It's only then that your message will come from a place of sincerity, not from a place of wanting something in return. And that's the magic of it. When you reach out purely to own your mistake, there's no expectation on the other person. You've already healed yourself by taking responsibility, and anything they do in response is secondary. You don't have to make a grand gesture or send a long, dramatic message. A simple, clear text can be enough to acknowledge your part in the situation. You might say something like, I've spent a lot of time reflecting and I realize that my actions hurt you. I want to take responsibility for that and apologize. That's it. No need for long justifications or attempts to explain yourself. Apologies are not about excuses, they are about ownership. The next step, after you send that message, is to step back and give the other person space. They may not respond, and that's okay. In fact, it's likely they'll need time to process it. They may never respond at all, and you have to be okay with that. You can't control how they react, but you can control how you show up. And when you show up in an authentic way, without expecting anything in return, it shifts the energy of the entire situation. And here's the thing, sometimes the person on the other side may never be ready to forgive. That's the hardest part of taking accountability. They may feel too hurt, too broken, or too angry to let you back in. That's a reality you have to accept. You cannot control their healing process. What you can control is the way you approach the situation. You can own your actions, you can apologize sincerely, and then you can let go. Breaking no contact for accountability is not about trying to manipulate the situation to get what you want. It's about facing your own behavior and realizing that you don't need to hide from your mistakes. It's about stepping up and saying, I'm not perfect, but I'm owning this. I'm learning from this. And when you do that, you stop being a victim to your past actions. You take control of the narrative. You start moving forward. Whether the other person does or not, when you own your mistakes, you are free. You break free from the cycle of guilt, from the cycle of trying to force things that were never meant to be. And even if they never respond, you've given yourself the gift of peace. You've done your part. And that, my friend, is powerful. So if you find yourself contemplating whether to break no contact, remember this. Don't do it to win them back. Don't do it to ease your loneliness or to fix your pain. Do it because you've reflected on your actions, you've taken responsibility, and you want to show up as the best version of yourself, no matter what the outcome may be. That's what true accountability looks like. And in the end, it's not just about them. It's about you. You know, sometimes we get caught up in this idea that a breakup means the end of something. Sometimes it's just the end of that moment. Sometimes life gets in the way and the timing is all wrong. The timing isn't always something we can control. It's easy to think that if two people are right for each other, everything will fall into place. But that's not always true, is it? There are moments when people can be perfect for each other, but their circumstances just don't align. Maybe they're in different places in their lives. Or maybe one of them is dealing with something so big they can't give their all to a relationship. It's the unfortunate reality that love can be powerful, but timing is just as important as chemistry. When that happens, you don't need to write the relationship off as a failure. Sometimes what needs to end isn't the relationship itself, but the timing that surrounds it. And here's the thing, if you're thinking about breaking the no contact rule under those circumstances, you need to ask yourself whether the time is genuinely better now or if you're just feeling a rush of emotions in the moment. If you're genuinely in a place where both of you have had the time and space to grow, to reflect on what happened, and the situation has shifted in a way that makes sense, then maybe, just maybe, there's a chance to revisit the connection. But this has to be done with honesty, maturity, and clarity, not out of a sudden surge of desperation or confusion. This is where the distinction matters. When you're reconnecting with someone, because the timing now feels more aligned with what's going on in both of your lives, that's a mature, thoughtful decision. Think about it. Maybe when the relationship ended, one of you was dealing with an overwhelming job, or the other was dealing with a personal issue that made it hard to be present. Maybe there was distance, emotional or physical, that made the connection harder to nurture. People can be ready to commit and deeply care about someone, but if they're in the middle of something that drains them or keeps them from being who they need to be for the relationship, it becomes difficult to really give what's needed. And here's the truth. Life is unpredictable. It changes, sometimes in small ways, other times in huge life-altering shifts. You can't predict when those changes are going to make two people who might have been perfect at one point suddenly come together again in the right way. Timing matters. That's why I say, if the timing is better now, if you're both in a place where you've worked through your stuff, and if there's no emotional baggage clouding your judgment, then reaching out might be worth considering, but only with the right intentions. Not out of loneliness or fear of being alone, but from a place of clarity and peace. The key is understanding that sometimes it's not the right time. Not because you're not good for each other, but because life simply wasn't ready to bring you together. And when you get that, you can let go. You can let the past be the past, knowing that timing wasn't in your favor. You let it go because you trust that if it's meant to be, it'll happen. So when the dust settles and enough time has passed, it's okay to acknowledge that both of you may be in a different place now. Maybe one of you has grown in ways you never expected. Maybe life's challenges have reshaped your priorities. Or maybe you're just different people than you were when the relationship ended. When you look at the situation, you might see it with fresh eyes. And if that's the case, it might be worth exploring again. But I want to be crystal clear here. You have to be doing this with the mindset that you're both coming from a healthier, more self-aware place. This isn't about rekindling something out of nostalgia, but about recognizing that life may have simply held back what could have been great timing before. But don't get it twisted. This isn't about waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. This isn't about just waiting around for things to magically fall into place. It's about personal growth. It's about taking the time to be your best self, with or without them. Only once you've reached a place where you can confidently say that you've both grown and you've both healed from the past, should you consider reaching out. Only then can you approach the situation with a level head and a genuine desire to explore a future that wasn't possible before. Here's something important. If you're truly considering reconnecting, make sure that when you do so, you're doing it with a clean slate. Don't let old issues or past mistakes cloud the possibility of moving forward. If you've both changed, if you've both improved, then there's a chance that this time around, it could be different. But don't break no contact just to see if the feelings are still there. Break it because you've given it time and thought. Break it because both of you are now in a position where you can give what's needed and are ready for the possibility of something more. Don't break it because you miss them or because you feel lonely. Break it because it makes sense. Timing is everything, and when both of you have grown, when the external pressures of life are no longer in the way, that's when you get to ask, is this right now? Is this the time? And if the answer is yes, then go ahead, but do it with intention, do it with awareness, and do it from a place of strength, not from the desperation that often comes with longing for what you once had. Only when you're both in a place where it can be healthier than before, when the timing really works, should you step forward into that possibility. It's all about being real with yourself first, because when you can do that, you can then be real with someone else. And that's when real connections happen. If the time is right, maybe it's worth seeing where it can go. Sometimes, when we're in the thick of a breakup, our emotions take control, and it's easy to think we know what's best. We're hurt, we're angry, or we're just plain confused. And in those moments, it's common to want to reach out, to fix things, or to get some kind of closure. But I want to tell you something important. You can't break the no contact rule if you're acting from emotion. Emotions are powerful, and they can sometimes trick us into believing we're ready for something that we're actually not. When you're still in the emotional whirlwind of the breakup, you're not thinking clearly, you're reacting. And that reaction, my friends, is not your best self showing up. It's the part of you that's feeling hurt, disappointed, or just plain lonely, looking for a way out of the pain. But here's the truth. If you're not ready to handle whatever comes next, you'll do more harm than good by reaching out. If you're still emotionally invested, If you're still in that space where you hope they'll come back, or you're angry and just want them to understand how wrong they were, then you're not reaching out from a place of strength. You're reaching out from a place of need. And that in itself can push them further away. So how do you know if you're ready? You've got to take a step back and ask yourself, am I doing this because I need them? Or am I doing this because I can handle whatever comes next? Are you ready to hear no without it completely knocking the wind out of you? Are you prepared for them to say, I've moved on, and still be able to hold your head high? Because that's the kind of emotional strength you need to have before breaking no contact. When you've done the work to heal, when you've let your feelings settle and you no longer feel like reaching out is a need but rather a want, that's when you're truly ready. You've got to come from a place of emotional detachment. Not coldness, but detachment. You have to be able to say, I'm good on my own, and still be open to the idea of seeing if anything else could come from reconnecting. When you're in that emotionally grounded place, it changes the entire dynamic. You're no longer approaching them from a place of desperation. You're approaching them from a place of balance, from a place of strength. That's what makes the difference. Because let's be real, if you're still emotionally attached, and you reach out expecting something, you might find that your efforts are met with indifference. Or worse, they may sense your neediness, and that will only push them away further. People can feel that energy. They can sense when you're reaching out because you're not okay. They can sense when your entire happiness rests on their response. But when you're calm, clear, and emotionally whole, the energy shifts. It's no longer about them fulfilling your needs. It's about seeing if the connection is still there, if the potential for something healthy and new can emerge. That's when your message, your words, your intention will feel different. And that's when they'll feel that shift too. I know it's hard. I know it's tempting. And believe me, I've been there. It's incredibly difficult to resist the urge to reach out when you're feeling vulnerable, when you're missing them, when you're wondering if there's still a chance. But the truth is, no matter how much you miss them, no matter how much you long for a different outcome, your healing is the priority. When you've truly done the emotional work, when you've allowed yourself the space to grow and move forward, that's when you can handle the outcome of reaching out, whatever that outcome may be. And I want to make one thing clear here. This isn't about manipulating the situation or trying to control their feelings. This is about respecting both your emotional journey and theirs. This is about coming from a place of personal power, where you don't need them to give you closure or to validate your worth. True emotional strength is not about never feeling pain. It's about feeling the pain, processing it, and still standing strong despite it. It's about knowing that no matter how hard it gets, no matter how much you care about them, you're still in charge of your own happiness, and you're capable of that. When you break no contact, because you are emotionally grounded, you have no agenda. There's no hidden desire for them to come back. There's no secret hope that they'll change their mind. You're just reaching out because you're curious, you're strong, and you want to see where things stand. Maybe they respond, maybe they don't, but either way, you've detached from the outcome. You've let go of the need for things to go exactly as you want them to. That's the emotional freedom you're seeking. That's the power that comes from making decisions that align with your emotional well-being, not just your impulses. When you break no contact, do it with a full understanding of what you're prepared to handle. Be honest with yourself about your intentions. Are you okay with hearing, I've moved on? Are you okay if they don't respond? If you can say yes to that, if you can say, I'm ready to hear whatever comes next, and I can stand on my own no matter the response, then you're ready. And that's the time when you can reach out. But if you're still holding on to the hope that somehow something will change, then I urge you to take more time. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with your healing. You'll know when it's right. And when it's right, you'll be reaching out from a place of strength, not desperation, not neediness, but strength. Because in the end, you want to make decisions based on what's best for you, not just on what you hope will happen with them. The best decisions come when you're emotionally clear, when you're no longer holding on to the past, but moving forward with confidence. When you reach that point, it will feel natural and it will be the right time to break no contact. There's a profound difference between needing someone and wanting them. The key difference is not only in the outcome it produces, but in the mindset that guides your actions. When you're in a place of need, your emotions take the lead. It's almost like being in a storm where everything is swirling around you and you can't see the way out. Your decisions are driven by panic, fear of loss, and the anxiety of being alone. You're thinking about what they can do for you, how they can fix this void, how they can make you feel whole again. That's not real power. That's desperation. But when you reach a point where you no longer need them, but you want them, that's a game changer. It's not about completing yourself through another person anymore. It's about the desire to connect, to share your life, and to explore something deeper together. You've found that sense of inner peace and stability without them, and that makes all the difference in how you approach the situation. Now, don't misunderstand me. Wanting someone is not about acting out of loneliness. It's not about trying to fill a gap. It's not even about convincing yourself that you should want them for some reason you're not quite sure about. Wanting someone means you've done the hard work of building yourself up first, becoming your own source of validation, and then deciding that a connection with this person is something that could enhance your life. When you come from that place, your decisions are driven by clarity, not need. That's when you break the no contact rule. When you've done the work on yourself, when you've rebuilt your sense of self-worth and independence, you're in a position to reach out from a place of strength. You don't need their approval, their validation, or even their affection. You've learned how to be happy and fulfilled without relying on anyone else. That's what makes reaching out so powerful, because you're not reaching out for something from them. You're reaching out for something with them. You're no longer chasing a response. You're making a choice to see if there's something worth exploring together. The crucial part of this is understanding that when you reach out from a place of strength, you're not tied to any specific outcome. Whether they respond or not, whether they engage or pull back, you're okay. You're fine either way. Because at the end of the day, your worth isn't tied to their response. Your happiness doesn't depend on them. And that's the real freedom. It's only then that you can make a move. Not from a place of desperation or anxiety, but from genuine curiosity and intention. When you break the no contact rule from this place, you're coming with a completely different energy. You're not looking for closure or validation from them. You're not hoping for them to come rushing back to prove something to you. You're simply opening the door for a potential conversation, one where both of you are free to say what's real without needing the other person to fill any emotional gaps. The only reason to break the no contact rule in this context is because you've reached a point where you're okay without them. You're whole. You're not hoping they'll fix anything or give you something that's missing. You're simply choosing to connect, to have a conversation, to see where things stand. And this is key. You are okay either way. Whether they respond positively or not, whether they've changed or not, you are still complete. So if you're thinking about breaking the no contact rule, ask yourself this: am I doing this because I'm seeking something from them that I can't provide for myself? Or am I reaching out because I genuinely want to connect, to explore, and to see if something else is possible between us with no expectation attached? If it's the latter, then you're ready. You've reached the place where breaking the no contact rule won't make you lose your power. It will simply put you in a position to make a choice from a place of clarity. But the key here is to not rush it. Don't make the decision out of a sense of urgency or impatience. If you feel the need to reach out, take a moment to check in with yourself. Do I truly feel balanced and at peace? Or am I still seeking something to fill the silence? Am I okay with whatever the outcome may be? Or am I relying on this to give me something I'm missing? It's only when you can confidently say that you're not depending on their response to feel good about yourself that you've reached the point where breaking no contact is not only okay, it's healthy. Remember, the moment you start needing someone is the moment you give them power over your emotions. The moment you want them, from a place of completeness is the moment you take that power back. And that's what will allow you to make the right decision from the right place. It's not about making them feel anything. It's about seeing what's possible without the pressure, the games, or the emotional weight. So if you've been keeping your distance and you feel that pull to reach out, ask yourself, am I in a place of power? Do I feel good about where I am emotionally, regardless of their response? If the answer is yes, then it's time to break the silence. Not because you need them, but because you're strong enough to simply want to see what happens next. Take that step with confidence and own your space. Your power lies in your ability to choose from a place of peace. That's when you're truly in control of your own happiness, no matter what happens. And that's when you know you're ready to move forward.